What does it mean to have an inner armor? I think of when something does go sideways, your brain is picking up that something is attacking you, and that could be something like a bad email. And if your bandwidth is very narrow, everything that comes at you is gonna feel like some sort of threat. It may feel that way because your internal armor and your bandwidth is too narrow.
Life's tough. Life's not fair. Life's gonna throw you curveballs. So the one thing you can guarantee is that storms in life are gonna come. Crisis moments are coming, and they're knocking at your door probably right now. And so the fact that you're going to face them is undeniable. The question is, are you ready when they arrive? And will you be able to respond and have resilience through them?
Inner armor to me, almost like a shield armor. Like the tools to me are when anxiety comes, they're the weapons I can use to overcome, and they give me the strength to always be in control.
You've got that outer shell, that outer presentation that interacts with everyone around you. And then there's the inner part. They both need to be healthy so that they work together. But it also comes from knowing that you have the tools to bring that calm on yourself physically as well.
This idea of inner armor, I love this term. I wish I would have known this as a 20-year-old or 25-year-old professional golfer, because I don't think I had it. I was striving on stress and anxiety. So what's happening in our world, in our life, off court, off course, will impact us while we're competing.
Having an inner armor means that I am capable of handling life.
And so for me, to build up my inner armor in the off season, through my week of preparation, getting ready for a game, gives me the tools and the potential I then need to unlock my best self on a Sunday afternoon in front of tens of thousands of people and millions more watching on television. And so I cannot afford to go into those moments without that inner armor.
And these tools, this inner armor allows you to understand that you have the control.
And so if we can develop tools of this inner armor, we will, I think, enjoy the process of being able to compete at high levels, especially whether you're at college level or professional level.
So having that inner armor helps me to both manage stressful situations, which will happen and continue to happen through life, manage change in our lives and in our jobs, and also navigate whatever life throws at us.
To build a dynamic bandwidth, that is like putting layers of armor on your internal self so that you can be resilient in those moments where things otherwise elicit a stress response. But no, your body is resilient and it's able to adapt and to move and change in a positive way.
I'm a different person because I've been able to identify and work on those inner armor things in my own self, my own life.
Everything in me wants to do what it takes to make sure I have as much inner armor as possible in those crisis moments.
Okay, hey Brock, here we are together, man. Can you believe it?
Yes, sir.
It's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Off season, got a lot going on. Getting into the contract here soon, so we'll kind of see what happens, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
That's right.
Definitely. So we've known each other for about 3 years now. Do you remember the first time we met?
I want to say in the cafeteria at the 49ers facility after my first in-game appearance against the Chiefs. Yeah, I didn't really have much experience with like sports psychologists or people who help me think through mentality and your heart and breathing, like vision, all of those things. I never really sat down with anybody and actually, attack those areas. For me, it was always, hey, how do you handle the pressures of being a quarterback and your platform and all that kind of stuff. But so once you approached me and we got talking about how I felt during my couple drives that I had at the end of the game for my first time in the NFL, and you started like telling me what you could do to help me, I was like, okay, there's something to this, and I think I need to go all in on it. So.
Yeah. So I think you were talking about that you felt like your feet were moving a lot, right? You remember that?
Yeah. So I got in at the end of the game against the Chiefs. we're losing, and it was really just to keep the starters, safe and healthy. So I get in, and it's my first action live outside of the preseason, my rookie year. And I remember like looking on the defensive line and seeing like Frank Clark and Chris Jones and some of these guys. I'm like, why are they still in the game? And so mentally for me, I felt rushed, and my feet were really fast. My brain and my thoughts were going really, really fast. I felt like I was getting the ball out really quick, and if there was any kind of flash or pressure in the pocket, I was stepping up quick and trying to get the ball out. And I didn't feel like I was calm within my body, like with my mind, my heart, saying the plays to the offense. I felt very rushed. And so that's what I told you, and you're like, I think I can help with that. So.
And do you remember like anything about what I thought that we needed to work on in relation to that?
Yeah.
Do you remember any of that?
I remember the first thing was really just your breath. And I was like, okay, like I've heard people, inhale, take a deep inhale and exhale, but you actually like explaining to me like what breathing can do and getting oxygen to your brain and then actually controlling your heart and realistically like allowing me to be present and not think too far ahead in the future or the past, but be where I'm at. What breathing does for you neurologically, my eyes were open. And so when you had started to teach me those things and then get hooked up with the belt and the heartbeat sensor and seeing the data in front of me on the screen, and how I can actually control my heart and being where I'm at, like it's real. And I was like, whoa, I never thought that I could actually see the live product, come to life. I didn't think that was a thing.
Yeah, what was inside of you? I just remember you being so receptive and curious. Curious. You weren't just like, hey, I got all this, man. I don't need to. But you were like, tell me more. Like, I know this wasn't what I want to be, right? Yeah. And you haven't been that way in other situations prior to this. But the bright lights and the Kansas City Chiefs and all that was like, okay, wait a minute. And so we started talking about the autonomic nervous system. You remember?
Yeah.
And how it can go fast and how it can go slow. And how we want to regulate that regardless of what's going on around us, how we want to regulate it. And so we've talked about, or we worked through a lot of different things over the last 3 years. Can you kind of describe, just summarize the different things that we've worked on to try to balance out the autonomic nervous system? And while they've probably been helpful in different ways, what do you think is the most impactful one for you personally? And what's been easy to kind of learn and what's been kind of hard to learn? Like if you could kind of summarize. I know that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the areas that we attack, really energy, where are you getting your energy, your breathing, and vision. Those are the three things that come to mind. And I know we've worked on multiple things, but I say those because for me, I think sleep and what I'm putting into my body like impacts dramatically, my day and my performance and how attentive I am in meetings and understanding how I'm being coached, what's been put into my mind with plays and scheme and handling relationships in the locker room. All of those things takes energy. And I never knew how important sleep was until like we started talking and you showing me some like data results and actually how people's performance can take off if you're getting the right amount of sleep and then also like just little things. I remember like you telling me like the importance of having natural fats in your body that your body can have early in the day and how it can elongate throughout the mornings into meetings. So like having some kind of like peanut butter, honey, like something that can sit well in my stomach and like allow me to have my body feed off something as I'm like watching film and meetings throughout a long day. And the schedule's long in football, but and then obviously breathing with being in the crazy moments and situations with just chaotic environments, really good defense, a good offense, and how can I be in the huddle and be precise with what I'm saying to the guys? How can I see it in my mind and more than anything, know that I'm present. I'm not too far ahead in the future or behind off mistakes. And that's where breathing comes into play. And then vision, working on convergence and divergence, and as a quarterback, dropping back and having good depth perception of where the ball needs to be in certain windows downfield, and just allowing my eyes to train my eyes on the screen that you had us go through with convergence and divergence. And then when I get out on the field, allowing my eyes to actually be ready and allow it to take it to another level and see things quicker. So those are the three areas I think that for me come to mind of how important, it is training off the field and how I can see the results on the field. But what do you think?
Well, no, I think I've watched you take the breathing by storm and the vision, working with Ian in the brain room there on the vision, the speed. We talk a lot about, we want to be fast with this balance of accuracy on vision, right? And in football and what you're doing, you cannot be 100% accurate. And so if you get leaning too far that way, then you're going to lose speed, right? The reverse is if I get really, really fast, then I lose accuracy. And the cool thing I think about the technology is that it lets you measure that.
Yeah.
And I think all these things that you're talking about we're talking about measurement. Actually, why don't you describe for everybody, when we talk about breathing, everybody thinks meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, whatever, breathing. How would you describe this as different than what your perception of, well, I need to do breath work or breathing? How is this different from that?
So, we put on like a breathing belt, and then also like the heartbeat sensor. And then, it's not just, hey, I'm going to close my eyes and have, a couple minute session of trying to be all zen and, like spiritual. It's no, how can I legitimately see the results on the screen as I breathe, where my heart is at and how fast it's going, how I can control it with my breath and actually seeing the results. And for me, like the inhale is so important, holding it at the top, exhaling through my mouth and hearing the exhale, and seeing my heart coherence where I need to see it. And then obviously doing multiple sessions and seeing how I can actually get better and better. And I'm still not where I want to be. So
you're pretty darn good.
But
you're pretty good.
That's the beauty of it, is like there's still more room to grow. But and I've taken that and then applying it to obviously my profession of playing quarterback in the NFL, and allowing me to make the right decisions, allowing moments not allowing moments to be too big. And so anyways, we go back to the room off the field in our locker room. We have our little brain room is what we call it, and in there I'm working on my breath and breathing so that when I'm in the game I can fall back on habits of breathing, and when I'm on the sideline, being able to breathe as I'm looking over the plays from the last drive, and allowing myself to get back to being present. It's a beautiful thing that I've learned, neurologically, how breathing has actually allowed me to control my heart and not allow me to be too out of it or too impulsive or out of control. I feel a lot more in control now. I feel present. I feel that no matter what the outcome is, like I can do my job well because I'm right here, due to controlling my breathing.
Yeah. So when you're looking at the screen, what's it like for you when all of a sudden you start breathing a certain way and then the heart actually starts tracking the breath?
Yeah.
Is there a certain feeling you feel inside when you feel that like perfect rhythm happening?
I think that it's tough to get there initially, but then once everything aligns with each other, it's like this, it sounds weird, but like just this natural state of this is where I should be, and everything is aligning with my heart and my breath, and I'm not caught up in anything else but being right here right now. And so that's what I feel.
Yeah, that is so cool. And you've already said it a few times, this whole idea of presence.
Yep.
And I know that is like probably our most common thing we talk about the day before games, right?
Yes.
Right. I mean, if I think back of all those pregame talks,
Yep.
it's about being present, right? And we talk about the what ifs. What if this happens? What if?
Yep.
And then we have the what about. What about happen? And you're saying that as you're doing this physiological work where you're focusing on the breath, it's increasing your ability to be present.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
100%.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Both, like, and it's funny, yes, for football and
Yeah.
in my profession, like I said, and on the field and off the field at practice, like all those things, that's great. And that's how I've come to know this. But even in life, when I'm going about waking up and going about my day and like actually taking hold of like breathing and allowing my heart and my breath to be in sync, and in that moment I'm able to know like, all right, who I am, what my purpose is, and how I can attack my day, what the task is at hand, and go all in on that. And so that's in all areas of life, but obviously when you can take that to the football field for my profession, like that's a pretty amazing thing as well. So
yeah, and I think you bring up a great point is not everybody out there is an NFL quarterback, right?
Yep.
You know, but what you're talking about is, this helps maybe your performance out on the field, but it's helping in other areas of life, right?
Yeah.
Is because of that presence. I got to think that in relationships that's different, in your spiritual life, in all these different areas, that the more present you are and out of the what ifs and the what abouts. I mean, that's what we all need, right?
Yeah.
You know,
No doubt.
is we need that presence, being present with people. So that's fantastic that you've gotten that skill.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about upstream, the brain, and how that affects the physiology, and the physiology then affects my thoughts and feelings. And then we have the behaviors down here, right? And so sports is very behavior based, right? It's the points you put up on the board. How have you learned that, or what have you learned about the fact that it's not just the behaviors, but it's working up here? How has working up here on the brain and body impacted down here, maybe even your thoughts and feelings and your behaviors?
Yeah. I mean, I think if I try to just go out and, throw a football well and just try to win games and be the best quarterback I can be, just raw, without any kind of training with my heartbeat, my breathing, where my mind is supposed to be with being in the present stage. I think I've done that before, and I've found out the hard way that it's scary, and it feels like life is going fast, and I have to make impulsive decisions, and then when I do mess up, I'm in this mindset of like, I should have, I could have, and I need to. Like, it's just a darker place, and it's not as freeing. And so I say that because when I'm able to take my training with my mind on my breathing, my vision, my sleep, and understanding that I'm energized and I know where I'm getting my source of energy, and I can rely on that going into a game. I don't have to make something up in the moment. I can rely on those things that, hey, I'm prepared. I know who I am and what I have to do right now. And so you then see my behavior follow that. And then you see the success with being consistent every drive and learning from my mistakes, but then also knowing that I can get off the field, recharge in the right way by controlling my breath and my heartbeat. And then once I step back out on the field, I'm going to continue just to make one decision at a time and stay present. And so I feel like my behavior follows like the preparation. So
I love how you describe that it actually follows, versus I think a lot of people, behaviors try to force these other things to happen, but you're saying if I do the progression, probably like just like you do progressions when you're, looking at reads and stuff. If you do the progression correctly, the behavior just kind of follows. I love that. Yeah. It follows what this is all doing when it's under control.
Yeah.
Can you think of a situation over the last few years where you specifically focused on your breathing, either pre-game, during the game, post-game, that you can remember that it just helped you kind of get through a stressful situation?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of games, like the last couple of years, especially. My rookie year, I was trying to figure it out, but the last 2 years, there have been multiple games and scenarios, and one of them being the NFC Championship game. We're down 17 at half.
Yeah.
And in that moment, it's like, all right, our season this is it. It's flashing before our eyes, and we're about to lose it. And we're down 17. We have one more half to go. And, I think Detroit had the ball before halftime. So I'm on the sideline standing up, like sort of pacing and catching myself like, hey, like, this is it. Like, you got to do something. There needs to be production. You need to do this. But I just felt myself like, okay, this is all out of my control right now with those thoughts. How can I center back to who I am right now, what I need to do, what I can control, and understand that there's things that I can't control and that I need to give that up. And so going into the second half, it was back to basics of what I'd done the whole year with being where I'm at, controlling my breath, allowing my heartbeat to just, steadily like be under control. And so that's probably the best one that's come to mind, but there's been multiple over the years.
But let's take a step down, look at downstream. Okay, can you think of a situation, because I don't think we all realize how much we rely on feedback.
Yeah.
In relationships, in life, getting from place to place and doing things, and also how powerful feedback can be.
Yeah.
Like the change it can create. But let's see, can you give me an example of a time, maybe in a game, where you got some feedback, behavioral feedback, and how you might have adapted or changed or learned from that?
Yeah. I remember the 2023 season, somewhat early. We played the New York Giants on Thursday Night Football. And in that game, my footwork, my mind was it was all over the place. I was trying to force too many things and whatnot. And so then that week, Clay Kubiak, our assistant quarterback coach, came up to me and was like, hey man, everything starts with your feet. And like, watch this clip, watch this one. And we watched all the clips from the last game. He goes, if you keep it simple and just trust how we're teaching you with footwork and throwing on time per concept, he goes, everything else will take care of itself.
Wow.
And so going into the next game against the Arizona Cardinals, that's all I focused on was his feedback with my footwork and playing on time, not trying to do too much, but do exactly how they're coaching the quarterback to play. And that game turned out to be one of my best games I had. I think I was like 20 of 21, like one incompletion, but all I focused on was his feedback. And that game, like throughout the game, I just kept thinking of him coaching me on my footwork and being on top of it. And so, I mean, that's definitely a lesson for me moving forward with my career, to understand how feedback sometimes is frustrating.
Yeah.
It's not what you think it is or what you want it to be all the time, but how necessary it is, especially if you're, striving for, greatness and being the best version of yourself. So love feedback.
Yeah. We can't learn without it, right?
Correct.
So that was an example of a behavioral feedback. We have been working the last 3 years on neurological and physiological feedback. Can you just describe in a training session how you get feedback and how that may adjust different things?
Yeah. I mean, even just with like skin conductance and seeing like my palms and my hand, like I feel my body like starting to sweat as I'm breathing, and then my score being way too high when skin conductance, we're trying to lower it. And so like understanding my body, looking on the screen, seeing that it's going up, and like how can I get back to taking control of my breath and allowing me to stay present, and then boom, my body temperature just starts to heat up better, and I'm not as clammy and sweaty, and I look on the screen and it starts to lower. So it's like taking that feedback and applying it and changing and adapting and getting a better result. So that was
I think that's a fantastic example because I don't know about for you, but that's the hardest one for me is to do the temperature up.
Yes.
Right? And skin conductance down. So the temperature, when we're more relaxed and we're not in this stress state, temperature goes to your fingers.
Yes.
Right? It rises, which as a quarterback, you definitely need that for the feel of the ball. And then this thing called skin conductance, which you mentioned, is our skin's the largest organ and has all this electrical current that makes it work. The more reactive we are to the environment, that skin conductance will rise. It's what you use in a lie detector test, right? The more focused but calm we are, it will go down. Yeah. And I know it's been frustrating for you and for me. It's like you get the temperature going up, but then your skin conductance starts to go up, right? Or you get the skin conductance going down, but then the temperature, because you're using more stress to focus, right? Yes. And so now the temperature, so the body doesn't lie, right? And it shows you, and I've watched you struggle with that. Actually, we've talked about it a number of times, and it is a hard type of focus to have.
Yeah.
But when you're in it, it's like nothing else, right?
Yes.
You know, and that feedback, like, I'm in it, because you can see that you're in it, right?
Yes. Yeah. And like striving for that feeling, you know, every session, because you'll have a couple sessions and then the next 10 sessions, you're like, oh my gosh, I've lost it. And it's tough, but great feedback and training within all that. So
yeah, and learning that. Let's finish up with this, okay? I like to always ask people that I work with, what does it mean to you to have an inner armor? So the program is the Inner Armor program. But apart from that, for you, what does that mean? Everybody is different. But we've been working on trying to build an inner armor, the upstream brain body. What does it mean to you to have an inner armor?
I think mentally, emotionally, and neurologically, like having tools to answer, like having tools to be able to go out and in the physical realm perform, and I'm talking about not just football, but like in life, with my marriage, my family, football, my job, like whatever it may be, having an understanding of who I am and how I can use like my brain and my breathing, my heart to be the best Barack that I can be.
Wow.
And so I'm continuing to learn that, but from what we've been doing and the training within all of that, it's allowed me to like what we've been talking about this whole time, not be too far ahead, not be too far behind, but be right here in the present and attack whatever my goal is for today and in the present. And so, I mean, that to me is like, you know, what inner armor for me, what that means.
That's awesome.
Welcome back. We're talking about an innovative and life-changing way that people are learning how to reclaim their brain. Now, he's the founding pastor of Mars Hill Bible Church, an author, and a father of three. Meet Pastor Rob Bell.
The nature of my work is essentially creative at its core. It's sermons, films, books. It's making things, generally with words and images. And so over the years, doing that means there are these times when you have to deliver. What happens is I developed all of these mechanisms to essentially crank up the adrenaline. And so over time I got used to that. Like, I got to create this next thing, so I guess it just takes everything. And then I'm going to turn it in, I'm going to share it with people, I'm going to finish it, and then there's going to be this collapse because it just took so much energy to do it. I would say that when I started this, I was reaping the consequences of years of living a particular way. My work is like lots of people's work. You have deadlines. There are moments when you have to get it done. And so your brain just kind of revs up. And so for many of us, what happens
over the years is we begin to think that that's normal, and our body gets adjusted to that. I think a lot of people have that sense. Like if you ask them, let's take a moment and just breathe. I think a lot of people have that jarring sense of, oh my word, I am flying. I am not breathing enough. My heart is beating all over the place. My brain is bouncing from this thing to this thing to this thing to this thing. And just a couple of days of vacation isn't going to fix that. What was so illuminating and convicting for me was when I got to see how my brain actually looked. To see that there is this spectrum of brainwave activity. And this is science. This isn't some sort of woo, this is just science. Here's what your brain is doing. I think my first impression was like a lot of people, which is like, huh? Is this like weird, like, you know, gonna put rocks on your spine and you're gonna chant with bubbles or something? You know, like, is this gonna be some sort of thing? Or is this like a psychology, like, just tell me about your father? Or where does this, but when I came and it was hooked up to the computer and then you just see on the computer screen, this is what your brain is doing right now. All of the sudden, these reactions that things evoke out of you, when you see on a computer screen why that is. That's a really, really powerful thing. I remember having this experience with one of the screens and realizing that breathing wasn't just air coming in and out, but that breathing involved a particular posture, and that it was possible to begin to breathe deeply in such a way that my whole being relaxed. Okay, this is a breathing belt. You can see there's like a rubber stretchy thing, and then it's hooked into the screen, and so it can measure how your breathing is going. And then this is a heart monitor. Is that taped on there?
We're gonna go permanent there.
Okay,
you can never remove it the rest of your life. Okay. So this right here is gonna measure heart rate variability. It's gonna pick up Rob's pulse, and we're gonna compare the heart rate variability with his breathing rate. The percentage number that we're looking on there tells us how well is the heart and the respiratory system connecting with each other. The more they connect, the greater resiliency within the nervous system, and the greater that the individual is able to manage stress. Most individuals go through their whole day and are never in a state of cohesion. So consequently, they're stuck in a state of crisis, as if the world is collapsing around them when maybe it isn't.
This process has been life-changing. Especially I'm able to create now, to write and to speak just from a place of rest and calm. And so when I do have to get up for a deadline or something, it's just a totally different thing. I'm coming from a totally different place, and it makes all the difference.
So have these stories got you thinking about reclaiming your brain? Well, if so, we're going to tell you how next, so stay with us, please.
Hey everybody, it's good to see you guys via video. This is Dr. Royer. You've had an opportunity to work with John Wieringo on all your assessments. Most of you should have one of these, which has your precision, power, focus, all your results. We're really excited to have all this data, and thanks for taking the time to participate in it. And what we want to do next is, now that we have some numbers from your assessment, we want to move forward with really trying to push you into doing some of the work in the Inner Armor program and doing the training, not just assess it, but doing the training. So I have a special guest and a good friend with me today, Dr. Ryan Bentley. Can you kind of introduce yourself to the medical students and kind of give a little of your background?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit of a different hybrid here. Started off my career going into medicine, and then had a back injury playing football in college, and ultimately ended up going into chiropractic first, only to find myself 8 years later going back to school, and at the ripe age of 36 I went back to medical school and did my MD and PhD. So I do have 3 doctorates, but really it's not about being, it's going through all that was really to how can I help people better. Now I have a pretty integrative practice where we see everything from professional athletes to newborn babies, all the way to people with stage 4 cancers, to people that are wanting to stay healthy and well and have years of good health span.
We introduced the Inner Armor program to you about a year ago. Can you tell us a little bit about what your experience has been with the Inner Armor program and why Inner Armor might be important to you.
Yeah, so interesting because, you know, I always think about the body on a physical, chemical, emotional level. And how does the body regulate? And the fear-driven process of our body and our thoughts and emotions and how it all connects. When I met you, it was like, oh my gosh, this is like the missing piece. Like, really good from my chiropractic aspect and sports medicine, really understanding the musculoskeletal type aspect of it, but also how does that translate from biochemical imbalances, whether it's hemochromatosis or rheumatoid arthritis and all these different things. And then the chemical aspect, but it was the brain that I was like, how do we, you know, it's not just, people aren't depressed because they have a Zoloft deficiency. Can these medications be helpful in a pinch? Yes, but long term, how do you handle the PTSD? How do you handle those stressors that get wired? And just like if someone physically picks up a baseball bat and swings it for 10,000 hours, they're going to have this muscle memory in their body. And I think about the neurological pathways. When someone's chronically stressed, you start rewiring your body and you rewire these processes. And so when I was approached and to meet you, and then had the ability to look at Inner Armor. I mean, it was like, to me, it was like, oh my gosh, finally, it's like the missing link for me.
Yeah.
And so now I'm able to help my body and also help patients on a physical, chemical, emotional level and how to regulate that. So when I look at Inner Armor and what it is to me, it gives me, we have this internal regulating system, our autonomic nervous system, our fight or flight or parasympathetic rest and digest type system. But if you are constantly in this state of stress, your body is chronically grinding, right?
Yeah.
And you don't get that relaxation. So you're eating on the run, you're driving to work and going into the hospital and eating on the way. And then you might be able to get a break in the middle of the day after you're doing rounds and all these different things. So you're constantly in this fight or flight response. Oh, we have a code over here. And then so you go run down there. And so your body never gets that relaxation. And so med school, residency, it's all hard. You know, it's stressful. It's assimilating vast amounts of knowledge. It's taking that knowledge and translating that into patient care. And then it's taking time away from your loved ones and your social reprieve that we get of being able to relax and care for ourselves. You might get a break in 17 days, you know, where you've been on, you know, working 80 hours a week and those types of things. So how do you regulate that? And that's what Inner Armor has done for me, is be able to help train my body in a way that I can stay focused and calm in acute emergent situations instead of honestly just freaking out. You know, oftentimes I'll see med students, you know, I still work with med students and teach at Western Michigan School of Medicine. And so they come to my office and I work with them. And, you know, a lot of times when they're doing rounds in a hospital, they'll get asked a question in front of everybody. And all of a sudden it's the deer in headlights look. It's a lot. And as you're taking a patient history, how do you keep your brain calm and be able to listen, assimilate that knowledge, translate that into your physical exam findings, and create a good, effective, personalized and predictive protocol for the patient to heal? And you can't do that if your brain is in this constant state of stress. You have to be in this relaxed state in order to have clarity of mind. Because if you're getting chased by a bear, immediately you become very hyper-focused and you're only focusing on one little thing and you can't think clearly on everything else. But again, you have to, because again, our body is connected. You know, the physical, chemical, emotional, and you think about all these pathways, you can't just focus in on one thing and just narrow in. Now, okay, someone's coding, you're going to do CPR. That's the only real thing that you're focusing on. But at the same time, you know, okay, let's push epinephrine, or, you know, what did we do? Do we do amiodarone? Do we need to, you know, need to do cardioversion? What are we doing here? And you have to stay calm in those situations when you're running a code. And so that's where you typically have the most calm person that's walking in that is going to be, okay, you're going to do this, you're going to take care of this. And they are just making sure all the people, because again, it's teamwork. You can't do it as an individual. My office, I am blessed with an amazing team, but at the same time, I have to be a leader and be able to recognize when they're in a position they're not comfortable with. How do we back that off, put them into a position for them to succeed, and for them to feel comfortable as we get to help and serve people on a daily basis. So the Inner Armor in doing this, you have to make it part of your routine. Because again, your routine is stressful. It is all stress. And if you don't break that habit and take time to control it. I mean, 8 minutes a day is what it takes really to run through this and graduate as you go. And it's interesting because, and you have to fiddle with it a little bit because you have to learn your body.
Yeah.
If I'm slouching and I'm just not paying attention, I'm not focused, I'm not really training anything. It's like going in there and, all right, well, whether I'm shooting 3-pointers or I'm trying to master swinging a baseball bat, if I just kind of go in there haphazardly, you got to go in there sharp and ready to learn from my body. And this gives me that biofeedback with the precision, power, and focus. It gives me that biofeedback so I can learn to regulate my body and know what it feels like when my body's starting to get out of rhythm, because I want to maintain that balance.
Yeah.
You know, if you guys don't do this early and create these habits, it's going to create a burnout, and then you're going to be feeling miserable. And you know, I'm going to be real. I was in residency. I was chief resident, and with 6 months left, I wanted to quit. So they gave me the option, like, don't. I was like, has anybody ever quit with 6 months left? They said, honestly, yes, we've had one person. That was tough, and it really took self-reflection. But if I was in this constant fight or flight response, which was starting to get there, I was at my threshold. And that's the reality. As med students, as residents, as physicians, as people, we all have this threshold of stress that we can handle. And it's, you add on there, let's say you have all these emotional stressors going on. Well, now your threshold, your delta's right here. And now you add in biochemical imbalances because you're eating trash every day. You're not fueling your body with the vitamins, minerals, proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and water, and breathing properly to get the oxygenation into your cells for your body to thrive. So now your threshold's here. And then all of a sudden, now you throw in there back pain or sciatica. And now it doesn't take anything to push you over that edge where you might just fly off the handle or say something in a way that is not of your character. And so it's all about how do we reduce that threshold from, you know, being here to removing that physical stress, removing that emotional stress, removing that biochemical stressors, and giving you more of this delta so you can handle the changes and the swings throughout the day. And that's ultimately what Inner Armor does, from the precision, power, and focus, is it gives you that ability to withstand. It gives you better resiliency. And not just resiliency, also the robustness, which means how hard can you keep getting hit and keep going, you know? And I think that's actually in a Rocky song or a Rocky movie. You know, how hard can you get hit and get up and get back up and keep going? And that's your robustness, you know, that it doesn't hit you. Your resilience is your body's ability to rebound and get back to that. And so it's only helping your body to be able to, because we're all going to have stressors, so your level is going to go like this throughout your day. But then your resiliency is going to help you bring it back down here. And that's what this does. It helps you control that to bring you down to this baseline. So again, you can handle that swing the next day. Because if you're not recovering, you're going to stay throttled right here. You're going to lose sleep. If you don't get sleep, you don't have your lymphatics working in your brain. Then you can't get into your REM sleep and your deep sleep. And then that just messes your next day. And it just keeps going. On a daily basis, Tim, I use this.
That's awesome.
And I am grateful because I would feel these things. Like I said, I was on the verge of burnout at, you know, 6 months left of residency, serving as chief resident and leading the residents, handling the med students, working the hospital floor, working with the administrators, working at the higher level of the med school itself.
Yeah.
But now when I had those feelings coming up, this has made me more self-aware because, again, you got that biofeedback. Yeah. So, guys, I can't tell you enough that this is important. It will help you, and it'll help you continue to create the life that you've envisioned. But again, you can't do that if you're in a state of fight or flight. You have to be able to control yourself and auto-regulate yourself, and that's what this helps you do.
I think a lot of individuals think that neurofeedback is to isolate troubles, but in this case, it really began to make a difference in our lives.
It was always hard for me to sit and pay attention. I thought perhaps I was ADD. Through the training, it has really changed my life in significant ways.
What was so illuminating and convicting for me was when I got to see how my brain actually looked. All of a sudden, these reactions that things evoke out of you, when you see on a computer screen why that is, that's a really, really powerful thing.
Welcome to Reclaim Your Brain. I'm Stephanie Webb. So do you or someone that you know suffer from anxiety, depression, ADHD, migraines, or maybe even memory loss? Well, if so, the next 29 minutes just could change your life. Joining me tonight is noted neuropsychologist Dr. Timothy Royer, the man who's making his goal to help people literally change the way that their brains work. He's also the keynote speaker for the upcoming Reclaim Your Brain series. Okay, what exactly does it mean, and how does one go about reclaiming their brain?
Well, Stephanie, reclaiming your brain involves two segments. First, we have to know it,
okay,
and then we try to grow it, grow the brain. And the real epidemic within our society today is that we're quickly running through the know it phase. People are getting diagnosed with ADD, anxiety, depression, sometimes in less than 10 minutes without taking time to really understand the brain.
Really understand what's going on.
Exactly. And the brain is at the core of everything we do. It operates our whole system. It's this unbelievable regulator that's taking information in every second of the day, and it's responding to that information. And the way it does that is through different electrical currents. And this electricity in our nervous system, called our autonomic nervous system, can either get really amped up and really excited and anxious, or sometimes it can run really slow.
Really slow, like on the weekends.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And what we're trying to do, or what we do through the Reclaim Your Brain series, is teach individuals how to get this electrical current in a more balanced state, which is this grow it phase. Once we understand how it's out of balance, the know it phase, then the grow it phase is making it stronger. And making it stronger, every brain can learn. The brain learns every second of the day. There's a quadrillion neuronal connections in our brain, more than there's stars in the universe. And our brain can learn every second. And what we do in the grow it phase is take the brain and teach it how to become stronger.
So then who would be the person that would benefit from something like this?
Well, we jokingly
Besides myself, of course.
We jokingly say, our program is very narrow. It's only for people who have brains.
Okay. Oh, darn it. Gosh. Well,
so it's really for anybody. We have two primary segments of people that we work with. We work with groups that we would call peak performance, and these are people in corporate settings. We work a lot with professional athletes, people that are already at the top of their game, and we help them go to another level. Then we have the other segment, which is the clinical population. And the clinical population are individuals with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, migraines, sleep problems, pain, all these different things that the brain is responsible for.
Now, what exactly are the benefits? You go through it and you know somebody's brain, you can help them grow it. What, as the person, what would you experience?
Well, the first thing is we're going to regulate the autonomic nervous system, the system that for many people is in overdrive all day long and they can never slow it down. We're going to teach those individuals how to slow down this autonomic nervous system. And when that happens, the brain actually functions more efficiently. And when the brain functions more efficiently, our cognitive potential increases dramatically. We've seen all across the country in schools and universities jumps in IQ of 15 to 20 points. We've seen changes in mood, changes in personality, enabling people to become more of who they were made to be. And I think probably the most striking thing for us is 85 to 90% of the people that we work with that come to us with medicines are able to leave without ever having taken medicine again the rest of their life.
Put the medication behind.
Yeah.
Now, how long would it be until you start seeing some of the results of this program?
Usually the program, at around 16 hours, you start to see some changes in the nervous system. We like to put kind of a mean of about 20 to 25 hours of the program.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for kind of giving us an introduction to how the process works, of course. Now, up next, he was just 2 years old when he was misdiagnosed with ADHD. NBA standout Chris Kaman will join us right here in the studio. We're going to hear his story and how Dr. Royer's help changed his life. We'll be right back. Stick around. Welcome back. NBA standout Chris Kaman was just 2 years old when he was diagnosed with ADHD. Turns out the doctors were wrong. Here's the story.
If you're a parent or a child or somewhere in between, Chris Kaman has something to tell you. And he's even willing to do it if you're on the other side of the country from his bedroom in California.
Obviously, you guys probably know I play in the NBA. This is my 5th year.
His message is as intimate,
honestly, like I go home sometimes and cry at night,
as it is inspirational.
It's completely changed the way I play basketball.
Physical gifts, soft hands, quick feet, good balance, have always been there for the Michigan native taken 6th in the 2003 draft, but he was 7 feet of coaching frustration.
I would forget a lot of stuff in the timeouts. I mean, my plays, Coach Dunleavy would be all over me. Like, how could you not? I just drew it up right in front of you 5 seconds ago.
So, if you want to know why he's suddenly playing like an all-star for the first time, start at the top. Kamen was diagnosed with attention deficit disorder when he was a child. Last July, he agreed to let a neuropsychologist, Dr. Tim Royer, take a look inside his head and find out exactly why he couldn't concentrate.
Here's somebody who was diagnosed at 2.5 with ADD, put on medicine at 3.5 for ADD, and he doesn't even have it.
It's disappointing that I couldn't have learned about this when I was 5 years old, 7 years old, when I was in school and out of control, and the teachers were trying to figure out what was going on.
What you're seeing right now is all the different brain waves within Chris's brain.
Royer evaluates his patients on the size and strength of those various brain waves. With Kamen, he found a high beta count, meaning there were brain waves running too fast and strong, the opposite of someone with ADD. So Royer created a training program in the same way Kamen's coaches might. Only this one teaches him how to regulate his breathing and heartbeat, allowing his brain to recalibrate itself. When Kamen's brain emits the desired balance of waves, the graphic moves and the music plays.
When we're doing the training, think of the model of a speedometer where the car can go really fast or it can go really slow. In Chris's case, the brain was going really fast, and what we wanted to do was make him aware of when he was going too fast. Much like when you're driving in the car, you're not really thinking, am I going 46 or 47, but you are aware when you go 75 or 80 miles an hour. Unfortunately for Chris, he would go 75, 80, 90, 95, and then it'd be hard for him to slow the whole engine down.
I'm like somewhere in the middle, you know. I'm not breaking the speed limit, and you know, I'm not going too slow. I think I'm a lot more regular than I used to be.
While Royer refuses to divulge exactly how his brain retraining technology works, Kamen has found that learning neurofeedback is similar to shooting a basketball. Everyone has different form, and you, through sheer repetition, figure out what works for you.
Once you get used to it, your brain figures it out. You don't really need to think about it anymore.
His focus has been great. I think he's made fewer mental errors between on rotations, on defensive coverages, and you know, as far as play sets, knowing where he's supposed to be and what he's supposed to be doing, for sure.
Having a brain in constant overdrive can pose problems off the court as well, especially if you have a high-limit credit card.
You have all this money and you never had it before and you just want to buy stuff, but I had no self-control in that area, and I could definitely tell a change in that when I was, you know, just after like 3 weeks, a short time of doing it.
When you look back, you were taking what they gave you,
Ritalin and then Adderall.
What did that feel like? Now that you know what you know about your brain?
Yeah. Well, now that I know, you know, I can't change the past, you know, so I'm just happy to be able to, you know, have found out about it now and be able to work on my future and help other people's futures.
Royer estimates there are millions misdiagnosed with ADD. For Kamen, it meant being labeled a poor student and a troublemaking jock in high school.
Dr. Royer here.
And Amy Royer.
We're here in Antigua. This is actually our 5th time that we've been here this year. And everybody's asking, why are the Royers always going to Antigua? And we just wanted to share with you absolutely amazing things that have been going on down here that we are a part of as Royer Neuroscience. So let's get into the interview. Aim, what do you say?
As a Royer Neuroscience family, we think you'll be really interested in some of the cool things we're able to do alongside of this stem cell project.
We wanted to take this time to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing over the last year here in Antigua. We haven't been getting killer tans or surfing. Not that that's a problem, but we've been down here working, and we've been working with Dr. Prodromos, who is one of the most amazing physicians that I've ever worked with. His credentials with Princeton and Harvard education and all the work that he's done over the years is just absolutely amazing. And he's really dedicated
hit this time in his life to try to help people with regenerative medicine. And the work that we're doing here is absolutely amazing. But it didn't just happen. It started really with where Royer Neuroscience starts, is in our concierge work. So I had the opportunity, and I have had the opportunity to work with Tony Robbins for a number of years. And about 4 or 5 years ago, Tony and I were doing training, and we'd been in Canada. I usually would travel with him and measure things. And I looked at his brain, and we were looking at his thetas and high betas. And for his age, we could see, you know, he was right about where he should be. And then we met up in Las Vegas about 2 weeks later, and I looked at his EEG, and everything had completely changed. You know, those of you that are listening that are Royer Neuroscience clients, what thetas are and high betas are, and it was like somebody completely transformed those, not just through the work of neurofeedback, but something happened. I said, Tony, what in the world happened? And he said, oh, I forgot to tell you, Doc, I was in Panama and I got stem cell. And I said, tell me more. I want to know about stem cell. And so we started to talk about that, and we started to track that. And he actually wrote about these experiences that we had in his book, Life Force, or I think it's chapter 4. And that got me thinking about our clients. You know, what can we help them with? And so one of the people that came to mind was Kirk Cousins, who we've worked with for since he was at Michigan State. And it was the off season. Kirk and I said, you know, we got to be taking it up a notch. Well, how are we getting better? We said, let's get stem cell in the off season. So I reached out to Tony and said, you know, where should we go? And he says, you got to see Dr. Prodromos. Dr. Prodromos is doing amazing work down in Antigua because he can use high quality cells down there. He can use high volume cells way outside of what the US is kind of restricting some of this technology. And they're sourced really well. And we wanted to get the best for Kirk. And so we came down here, we both did it together. Absolutely amazing. And since then started sending other people. So when I looked at Kirk's brain, it had changed too. So I started talking to Dr. Chad, Dr. Prodromos, and I said, hey, we need to be measuring people's brains, not just looking at what they're telling us, but what are their brains telling us? Because I'm seeing changes in the EEG. So Dr. Chad and I committed to really doing pre-measures of people, and particularly the first group we looked at, we said, let's make it a little bit difficult. And so we looked at individuals with autism. And it was amazing what we saw. Typically they have very low thetas and very high betas and a lot of stress. And what we saw in that group of autistic individuals was a significant change in their thetas, their calming mechanisms in their brain, and a significant decrease in high betas. And so this kept us on our journey where for the next couple of years we have re-administered those EEGs, getting baselines. And that brings us up to this last May. Can you share a little bit about what happened there?
Yeah, I was wondering if you wanted to say a little bit about the difference of the stem cells here versus what's happening in the U.S.
Oh, that's a good point.
Because that would be helpful to understand. We're not comparing apples to apples.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because so many times I'll talk to my clients about, you know, enhancing what we're doing through different things like infrared and hyperbaric, and I'll say the holy grail of this is stem cell. And, oh, I had stem cell, you know, in Baltimore or down in, you know, Boca Raton or something. I'll be like, it's not the same thing. So it's kind of it's a bigger world than just one type of thing, and that has a lot to do with the quality and the sourcing, where the stem cell comes from. And the FDA puts huge restrictions on this to the point that they're not even the same thing when you're talking about them, the stem cells. And then the other thing is quantity. The quantities are severely limited in the United States, and that's why somebody will use stem cell and they'll have some type of impact, because even at a low quantity, they're impactful. But we're talking about going from thousands to millions, and in the case of exosomes, we're talking about billions and trillions, which make a total difference. It's like, going from a baby aspirin to some significant pain medicine. Okay, these are totally different levels of what's happening. So that fast forwards us to May.
Yep. So then we started coming down here ourselves in May and working together in gathering the data, which allowed us just to be a little bit more cohesive in exactly what we're collecting and what we're telling people, and really started to get some traction as far as understanding more about what Dr. Prodromos is doing and where he's heading. And so exosomes began to be the main thing that they were using, because they are less invasive, less to administer, and getting better responses in the brain-based diagnoses because they cross the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah.
So they're becoming super valuable in some of these super difficult diagnoses like ALS, Parkinson's, some of the tremors, and MS. So we began to start to interact with people that are facing diagnoses where they don't have much to offer in the conventional medicine arena. So these people are already individuals that are digging through the research and searching outside the lines, so to speak.
Okay, we've lost Amy to the clinic. They needed a nurse over there, so they didn't need a neuropsychologist. So she's over there and she's helping them out. So I'll finish up the video. So we've seen all this effect with stem cell. We saw that with Tony, we saw that with Kirk, we've seen that with the autistic population. Last May 2024, we came here and Dr. Prodromos was starting to do clinical trials with a new form of stem cell, exosomes. Exosomes are communication pathways between the neurons in the brain that allow things to communicate, and they can also be transferred across the blood-brain barrier. So he was starting with a small group of Parkinson's patients, and the first night we were here, you could see in the restaurant, we have this big restaurant that we all go to, and 40, 50 patients around, and you could see who the Parkinson's patients were with kind of that mask, sort of end-stage Parkinson's. And the question was, how is this going to impact them? Well, the next day they got the treatment, we saw them all at dinner, was absolutely one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. All of a sudden, the facial expression, the face kind of opening up, a lot of the different tremors and things going away were just striking, and not just for one person, but for each person in the group. And we had brought some Royer Neuroscience clients here to get some stem cell, people like Tom and Cecilia and Scott and Adi, and everybody was just amazed at what we saw. And we knew that Dr. Prodromos was onto something with these exosomes. And so that's when Royer Neuroscience said, we need to start getting over there to Antigua, getting here, and assessing these people pre and post exosomes, because if there's something happening, we need to document that. Over the last few years, we're close to 300 EEGs that we've done, but about 200 of them have happened in the last 12 months. And what we've been seeing with these exosomes, particularly we've worked with a lot of different people, but we've really been working on the Parkinson's group, we've been working on the ALS group, and we've been working on the dementia group, which includes different forms of dementia like Lewy body dementia, also includes Alzheimer's in there. And so we're looking at those groups pre and post stem cell, and the numbers that we're seeing in EEG changes are striking, statistically significant. In 15 out of 15 Parkinson's patients, we're seeing statistically significant changes to their EEG. How that affects downstream behaviors, sometimes there'll be huge impact for a few weeks and then that might digress some. But we definitely are seeing neurologically changes are happening upstream in the brain. And so now we're looking at number of administrations, the quantity of the exosomes that are being introduced so that we can track this. But we are really on the edge of something absolutely amazing down here in Antigua. And you're part of that as the Royer Neuroscience family, because as you do treatment, you do your training in your home, in your office, wherever you're doing that, that data is the same kind of data that we're looking at here. And it's so helpful to be able to have these different reference points. And we just want you to know that that technology you're using isn't just you, it's on the front edge of medicine. And it's allowing us to see massive changes in some significant groups that have some really debilitating illnesses. And we're excited to keep you informed about what's happening down here. If you'd like to know more, or you have a family member or somebody that you know that you might want to explore exosomes or stem cells, let us know. That's not what this video is about necessarily, but we do know that just like us, you know, my father-in-law, Amy's dad, has Parkinson's, and you know, these disorders impact all of us. And so if you'd like to know more, like to know how you could be involved, we really need some help as we're generating the research, and have developed a nonprofit to try to bring some resources in to help us on the establishment of some really good research protocols. But thanks a lot for watching the video. We're excited about what's happening in Antigua and with Royer Neuroscience. Look forward to updating you again in a few more months.
Yeah, we've worked together for over a decade, and so there's a large sample size now to work off of. But my dad heard you speak, and so he felt like this would give me an advantage playing quarterback in college, and ended up being able to meet with you during my senior season. And it was about halfway through my senior season, and we started working together, and had about 9 games left in that season. And we got to the end of the season, and my offensive coordinator, who called the plays, as we looked back on my career and back on that season, said, "Kirk, I really felt like you played your best football these final 9 games." And I thought that was interesting because he knew nothing about our work together, and yet the timeline he selected as when my play really went up and then maintained at that high level exactly coincided with when we met and started working together. And I remember making that connection, saying there's something to that. And I've found over the last decade that that's been the case, that to the degree that I've really pressed in and worked with you diligently, my play has always correlated with that in such a way that I'm very successful. And there have been times to my own detriment where I've stepped away or been less engaged. And many times my play hasn't quite been as consistent. And so I decided a couple of years ago that I wasn't going to let that happen anymore. And I decided to go all in, and I have seen a much greater level of consistency in my play on the field. And so I'm a major believer in the work we've done and what it can do, not only for me as an athlete, but for me as a human being. When it comes to me being as healthy as I can possibly be, the impact it has on my family, on my relationships. So I'm grateful that we met over a decade ago. I don't know that I would still be playing football as a professional athlete today at the age I'm at, if not for us meeting over a decade ago. So extremely grateful that happened. You know, realizing that my brain has potential that isn't necessarily tapped into, but that by the work we've done, I can access it, I can tap into it, I can maximize the hardware and software that I've been given. We've done a lot of work and tests to understand my brain and what it has to offer, but we've also done a lot of work to extract that and to put it to use. And so it manifests itself in the form of greater levels of focus, the ability to manage stress and crisis situations, the ability to be at my best when my best is required, which many times is very difficult moments. And I would argue there's a resiliency, an ability to sustain over longer periods of time. And in my profession, many people have a successful game, a successful season, but can you do it for a decade? And I think our work has enabled me to do it over a much longer period of time and a larger body of work to say I'm not just a fluke. I've been able to have sustained success, which in the world I'm in can really separate you. In the world I'm in as a quarterback, my vision is a lifeline for me. I have to be able to see and process information extremely quickly. The faster, the better. And milliseconds can be the difference in winning and losing. And so my eyes, my eye muscles, my brain's ability to receive what my eyes are taking in is so important, and there's very little room for error, and so we want to leave no stone unturned in that department. We were able to do vision training to strengthen the muscles in my eyes, strengthen my ability to see far, to seeing near, to looking left, to looking right, and for the brain to quickly be able to pick up that information and not miss a millisecond. I think that's made a difference certainly on the field, but it also makes a difference when I'm reading books. It makes a difference in terms of the energy my brain has to expend throughout the day to be able to just function. If my eyes and my brain are working more efficiently, that's less energy that is put to work to function on a daily basis. So my body, my brain, and my eyes become more efficient, and I'm not as tired at the end of the day. So there are many benefits, obviously as an athlete, but I'd say beyond that as a whole person, that you really start to become your best self. And these are results that I didn't even know I could get. And so you're not only discovering how to get there, but you're realizing this is opening doors I didn't even know were possible that could be opened. Well, when we first met, I didn't naturally breathe correctly. I was breathing through my rib cage, through my chest, which is how most of us breathe, but is not the way God designed it to be, and not how our body's physiologically going to respond best. And so I learned what it meant to breathe through my diaphragm, to breathe with deeper breaths instead of shallow breaths. These are things I still to this day don't naturally do, and so that's where the training has been so effective and such a difference maker. But again, I point to when I've been very diligent with regular breathing sessions, 3.5 minutes at a minimum, multiple times a day, multiple days a week. It has led to better performance on the field. And it's a job for me playing quarterback at the professional level that is very stressful. There's a lot of crisis moments, and physiologically I need my body in those moments to respond and deliver at its absolute best. And breathing is foundational for that to happen. No matter how many other good things you do, if you're not breathing correctly, you're probably not going to be able to deliver. And no matter how many things you're doing poorly, if your breathing is correct, it can cover for a lot of other issues and weaknesses. The brain is really the life force that drives who you are as a person and your ability to have success. And 80% of the brain's energy comes from oxygen that we take in as we breathe. And so to breathe effectively is going to give our brain a higher ceiling, a greater potential. And there is inflammation, there are toxins that can build up, but that this oxygen that we bring in removes. And so for me, to breathe correctly and maximize my oxygen intake and the resources I'm giving my brain, I'm maximizing who I am as a person. And that's why it's so foundational that you breathe correctly with deep diaphragmatic breathing. For the lifespan, this is a very valuable trait that will help me in the near term, but to breathe correctly and train my body to do this correctly, I think when I'm in my 70s, when I'm in my 80s, it will enable me to have a far better quality of life, and my brain will function at a far higher level. And so I'm in it for the short term and I'm in it for the long term, and breathing is foundational to both. I know I can look at data. I don't just say, well, I feel like I'm focusing better. People around me may be able to observe. We notice that you're a little more present. We notice that you're listening better. We notice that you're focusing better. It's harder for me as an individual to sense that and feel that, but I can look at data and say my brain used to be here, my body used to be here objectively, and now it's in a different place. And the science suggests that that's going to make me a more focused, more capable athlete and person. But I do think it has enabled me to not only play well, but to process information well. Game plans require so much study, so much volume, so many meetings. So there's so much Monday through Saturday to get you ready for Sunday that while Sunday's how you're measured, if you can be more effective Monday through Saturday, you're much better off on Sunday. So I do think it's given me a better chance in those crisis moments on Sunday. But the training, the biofeedback that creates greater focus for me is also showing itself Monday through Saturday as I sit in meetings, as I practice, as I prepare for those games. There's many people who aren't athletes, and they're going to get tremendous benefit from this work, and there's many people back in my community who have done this work who would testify to that. But I believe that my interpersonal skills are stronger, my ability to relate to my wife, my kids, my ability to focus on them and not get distracted, my ability to listen to them and be present instead of being there but physically, but mentally, emotionally elsewhere. All these things, can transform family dynamics. I think about longevity and being healthy and feeling good and being at your best physically and mentally and emotionally day in and day out, completely removed from athletics. It enables me to be a better person. The fact that I can have mental clarity, that I can have energy, that I can feel an ability to manage stress, to be present, these are all things that certainly help as a quarterback, but they're really helping far more as a human being.
Okay, Sam, can you introduce yourself and just kind of tell us a little bit about you?
Hi, my name is Sam Cummings. I am managing partner of CWD Real Estate Investment in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We are a real estate investment and property management company, and I've been doing this for almost 30 years. In addition, I do a lot of non-dollar producing activities. I volunteer and serve in some executive roles. I'm on the board of a local or regional brewing company, as well as a motorcycle manufacturing company, and yeah.
Cool. So you and I have worked together for a while. Can you tell me a little bit about how long you and I have been working together and why you originally sought to kind of
So I've been working with Dr. Royer and Amy and Adam, for 10 years, I think. 10 years or more. And a friend introduced me to Dr. Royer. And at the time, I was having a lot of anxiety issues. I mean, I was very sort of hyper. I was having difficulty focusing as a result of that, and I was introduced, and it was extremely interesting to me to see how that condition manifested itself on the screen. And the way Dr. Royer put it to me back then was that you're sitting at your desk and you're performing these tasks and you're doing a pretty good job at it, but your brain has you running from a tiger 24 hours a day. And that was super interesting to me. And I almost without interruption, ever since then, I have been taking good care of my brain, training my brain, weekly or every other week since. And I've gone from running from a tiger to actually recording some pretty extraordinary calm focus numbers on that screen. And I'm a little bit of a competitive guy, so it's cool because I'm able to actually set goals for my level of calm focus, and if I don't hit them on a weekly basis, it's kind of an off week. And but it's super interesting is I can actually see it and feel it in my work, and it's by checking in frequently and doing it frequently, I can very take hold and ownership of the relationship between how well I'm sleeping and doing things, how well I'm sort of taking care of my body and my brain, and how it manifests itself in the numbers. So,
apart from work, do you see what you've done in the brain training impact other areas of your life, and how would you say that has impacted that, if you have?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all over. I mean, part of it is, you know, it's given me the tools to be able to reset myself when something might trigger me. I also can be, I have a little bit of obsessive compulsive, and I like things to be orderly, and there are certain things that can visually trigger me, and being able to recognize what those are and just, I call it breathing through it, right? And it makes me a better husband, because my wife is awesome and she's a great compliment to me, but there are certain things she does that are a great compliment to me that can trigger me. And it's fantastic, but yeah, so that's one thing. And the other thing is you know, it's not me personally, but also my son. So my son is 14, and he has been a patient client of Dr. Royer for 10 years too. And he has a little autism, and it has been it has been incredible for him. I mean, it's something he looks forward to, and it together with his schooling and my wife's gentle hand, you know, Dr. Royer and Amy and Adam have really been an important part of who he has become. And similarly, his numbers were very much like mine when we started. I mean, he was, you know, you've seen one autistic person, you've seen one, right? They don't all fit into a box, but a lot of them can have anxieties because what they're trying to do is they want to achieve like you and I. They want to think like you and I. They want to be accepted like you and I. But sometimes they have difficulty expressing that or getting it out, and that causes them some anxiety. And teaching my son at an early age how to manage that through breathing and calming has really been incredible, not only for him as a person and a family member, but also how he approaches his schoolwork, etc. And now he also is a little competitive, and he gets very focused on making sure his numbers are good every week. He also likes to brag to his dad when he beats his dad's numbers.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, can you speak to me specifically about breathing, and can you just kind of give me an example of where you maybe use breathing in a stressful situation, or kind of think of a situation where you might have used breathing?
So I use breathing, my knowledge of how it can reset me, almost daily, but especially, sometimes, my work or parts of my work can create very, sometimes adversarial situations. We field a lot of complaints sometimes and sometimes, I refer to it on my team as we are the jackass in the hailstorm. The world's an imperfect place, things in real estate break, and you never know what's going on in people's world. They may have a bad day, and the fact that the toilet overflowed, or a drainage pipe in a HVAC condenser plugged and it dripped on the floor is the last thing that triggers them, and they yell. So a lot of times when I'm dealing with situations like that, when fielding a complaint or dealing with a tough situation that might otherwise elevate me emotionally, because elevating emotionally usually robs you of the ability to make good decisions. So I will pause, and sometimes I will even excuse myself and go to the restroom and just breathe and just, reset my brain and try to remove the emotion from the situation and get a clear platform for making a good decision on how to address the situation.
Fantastic. Very good. Can you describe for me, because I don't think many people distinguish this, okay? Can you describe for me the difference between a stress focus and a calm focus, and how you've learned to maybe obtain more of a calm focus over time?
So the difference between a stress focus and a calm focus. First, I mean, there are a couple of things. One of the things I've learned is that, for me, and again, this is just an individual, in order to achieve calm focus, I also need to, control my environment as much as I can. But if I can't control my environment, I also will lean on my breathing tools to help me control as much of it as possible. But a calm focus is really productivity, right? And it's something, I try to visualize in my head when I need calm focus. Like, say, for instance, say I've got 3 hours left in the day, and my panic, and I've got in my mind, I think, 6 hours of things to do. If I approach that frenetically, I won't get any of it done. So it's it's important that I approach that with calm focus. So I've got to tick off those things. I've got to be able to categorize what is urgent and what's important, and be able to get in that zone. So I will take a moment and breathe, kind of clear my desk and prioritize, and then attack.
Do you sense that when you're in that calm focus that mirrors anything that you've seen in your brain training?
100%. So what I've been able to do through training is actually be able to link with, calm focus is be able to see what that looks like on the screen. And so I also understand what that feels like when I see it on the screen, and that's what I try to achieve in order to be the most efficient at getting through my list and getting through the things that are most important.
Fantastic. 2 more things. Change, we're going to talk about change. Change is inevitable, okay? And so for a lot of people, change can be seen very negatively. How has the training allowed you to see change? Especially, I know you like things kind of in routine, but how has the training allowed you to kind of make change a positive thing for you, or to be able to adapt to change?
So change, I try to put them in 2 different categories. So I don't like surprises. So there are surprises and there is change. And I think, surprises are those things that that you have absolutely no control over, or you have an expectation and it comes in different than an expectation. So I guess part of what I try to do is whenever I am faced with a situation that is change, it's the same routine, right? First, I recognize that change is part of life, right? So going into solving a problem or whatever, I try to run through the scenarios that might happen, that would-be changes. So even if they occur, they're not surprises. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that together with being able to, again, I don't want to be repetitive, but again, it's the same routine. If a change happens that I was not yet entirely prepared for, which happens in business and in life, my first line of defense is to recognize that I am going to respond best to it if I put my mental attitude and my decision-making ability in the best possible condition to respond to it. So that involves calming myself down, and it goes back to the breathing. It's just how do you make yourself as best, or equip yourself as best as possible to respond to the exterior stimuli, and it's about as simple as that.
So what would you say to the person who says, I mean, it sounds like you're just saying that, like, breathing is like the base of this, and that just seems so simple. Is it that simple?
It's like, I think it's with practice, it's simple. It's not. It's like anything, right? Again, I have a son who's autistic, which means that a lot of things that are natural to you and I are learned behaviors for him. I think it might have even been Dr. Royer. I think it might that said that learning. I can't remember who gave me this analogy, but it's one I use all the time. It's like interacting socially to my son is like learning how to play an instrument. Learning how to breathe and learning how to best utilize this tool, because I actually refer to it as a tool I have. It's a developed tool, and learning how to do it best is best done with practice. And I'll even expand on that. It's you could call it a workout. You could call it as important as taking care of your body, but it also, frankly, it's something that I look forward to every week, because it's an hour I've got to myself, and it's an hour I've got to actually refocus and reset, and it's been a really, really important part of my weekly routine.
Perfect. Last one. What does it mean to you to have an inner armor?
To have an inner armor, to me, is just it's a fully I don't want to say it's fully developed. It's a developing and developing skill or developing tool to be my best person, be my best self. So it's not only it's being my best self professionally. How do I bring all of the assets I have to every decision, and be as prepared as possible to use, everything, all my experience to bring to daily decision making, right? So if you had the opportunity to unleash the best possible scenario for bringing calm focus to which really means digging deep and bringing all of your experience to bear on any one decision at any given time. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? But the term inner armor is kind of like it goes back to those surprises, right? I mean, who as a business person or whatever doesn't have surprises? You want to plan for all of them, but also you aren't the world is an imperfect place, right? So it's always going to change, and you've got to be ready for them. And nobody has every experience that's relevant to every decision that they're going to make, but being able to bring your best self, bring your calm, bring the best calm focus to every decision you have to make throughout the day is critical, and that's my inner armor.
My name is Tracy Hansen, and I played on the LPGA Tour for 15 years and collegiate golf at San Jose State University. Life on tour was up and down for me. I started fairly strong as a young golfer, trying to get my feet wet on tour, had a couple good seasons, and then I've really experienced quite a few slumps. And some of those slumps were related to things happening off the golf course, just being worn down mentally and emotionally, where I was working really hard on my game but not really feeling the fruit of my effort. I met Dr. Royer in 2008, I believe, and my coach, swing coach at the time, wanted us to meet and kind of wanted me to revive my career. In about 20 minutes, you had me sold on what you were doing and just understanding more about what was happening internally, and putting some words and some information around that I wasn't really crazy, that there were really real things happening inside that I was struggling with. One, I thought I knew how to breathe. And so when we saw the computer screen and how erratic my breathing was, and I really didn't understand that deep breathing and how that was connected to the heart rate, that was eye-opener for me, and that I wish I would have had that earlier in my career. We say this word breathing and we think it's very generic, or yeah, we're born, we know how to breathe, it's just natural. But what I learned is that it was like lifting weights for breathing. It was like, oh, we have to practice this in order to integrate it. And I think the most important thing that it did for me is that it took me out of the technical thinking and into rhythm and play mode. My first tournament, when I took the breathing rhythm onto the golf course, it was like it was the only thing I focused on. And so I would stand up on every shot and I was only thinking about breathing. In between shots, I was only thinking about breathing. And honestly, out of a 20-year elite competitive career, it was the most relaxing round of golf that I had experienced in competition. What was really memorable for me is just how calm and how focused I was able to be just by focusing on the breathing. I now recognize when I'm not breathing well, and I can get right back into it. And so whether I'm speaking somewhere, just even a fun round of golf, and I haven't practiced, I can jump in and just think about breathing. Relationships, walking through conflict with people, the breathing, I can come right back to the breathing and use that to just calm down, settle in, and then go forward with what I have to do in the moment or for the day. When I played a lot of golf stressed, I actually would, like 2, 3, 4 holes would go by and I wouldn't even know what happened. Or I'd be stressed and I would be trying so hard that it would actually inhibit my natural ability to come out and utilize the skills that I had practiced and let them show up in competition. When I started playing more with this idea of being more in this breathing rhythm, being more calm, I still feel nervous, so that's good. But the difference is that I see more of the playing field, I take in more of the data, whether it's wind, wetness, cold, heat. So this idea of inner armor, I love this term. I wish I would have known this as a 20-year-old or 25-year-old professional golfer, because I don't think I had it. I was striving on stress and anxiety. Today, this inner armor is, we're people that are mind, body, and soul. And we can't compartmentalize our sports, our athletics, or our performance. And so what's happening in our world, in our life, off course, will impact us while we're competing. And so if we can develop tools of this inner armor, we will be better competitors. And whether the results are different or not, we will, I think, enjoy the process of being able to compete at high levels, especially whether you're at college level or professional level.